Jace walked slowly through the thick alien forest. His boots crunched over red leaves and glowing moss. The air was cool, quiet, too quiet. He was sent by the Earth Federation to scan this planet for resources, but something about the forest made him uneasy. The trees were tall and curved like they were watching him. Strange clicking sounds echoed from far away, but Jace didn't stop. He had a job to do, and the sooner he finished, the sooner he could leave. Then he heard it, a voice, small and high-pitched, full of fear. "Help! Please, help!" Jace froze. He wasn't supposed to meet anyone here. This zone was marked uninhabited, but the cry came again, clearer this time, "Please. My mom is stuck. Help her, human." Before he could react, a small figure ran out from behind a tree and clutched his leg. Jace looked down and saw a tiny alien child, maybe 4 feet tall, with pale green skin and large violet eyes. She looked terrified, her little hands trembling as she pulled at his suit. "Please come. She's in a trap. She's hurt," the girl cried. Jace knelt down, confused and cautious. "What's your name?" He asked gently. "I'm Laura," she said, tears running down her cheeks. "You have to come now, or the forest will eat her. The forest will eat her." That didn't sound good. Still, he could see the fear in Laura's eyes. It was real. "All right," Jace said. "Take me to her." Laura grabbed his gloved hand and started running. Jace followed. Moving quickly through thick roots and underhanging vines, he marked their path on his wrist pad in case he needed to return. They passed broken signs and fallen metal poles covered in moss. They were entering a restricted area. Jace's map flashed. Red, warning him, "Danger zone. Do not enter." But he kept going. He couldn't leave a child alone in here. He didn't care what the map said. After a while, they stopped at the edge of a deep pit. Laura pointed, sobbing, "There. She's there." Jace looked down and saw her, a tall alien woman, unconscious, her leg caught in an old metal snare. She was bleeding and barely breathing. She looked like Laura, same skin, same eyes, just older, stronger, and broken. Jace climbed down carefully. The air in the pit felt heavy. He could smell oil, blood, and something else. Movement. He turned his head fast. Shadows moved between the trees above. Something was watching. Laura stayed at the edge, her eyes wide with fear. "Hurry," she whispered. "It comes when it smells blood." Jace knelt beside the mother and examined the trap. It was old alien tech, fused metal claws holding her leg tight. He pulled out his multi-tool and tried to pry it open. The forest made strange sounds around them, whispers. Clicks, groans. Jace worked faster, his hands sweating despite the cold. The trap hissed as it slowly began to release. Suddenly, the woman gasped, her eyes snapping open. She grabbed Jace's arm with weak fingers. "Take her and run," she whispered. "It's still here." "What is?" he asked, but she only shook her head, her eyes wide with fear, before he could ask again. A loud roar echoed from the trees. Jace stood quickly, pulling out his blaster. Something massive moved beyond the trees, just out of sight. The ground shook. As heavy steps moved closer, Laura screamed and backed away from the edge. Jace looked up, then back at the woman. He had a choice: run now, or stay and try to save them both. He looked into Laura's terrified eyes. He couldn't run, not now. He looked at the snare one last time and shouted, "I'll get you out of here, I swear." But the shadows were moving closer, and whatever was coming was not afraid of humans. Jace's heart pounded as the roar faded into the trees. The forest around them fell silent again, but it was not peaceful. It felt like the forest was holding its breath, waiting. The alien mother lay still, her leg bleeding. From the trap, Laura stood at the edge of the pit, shaking. "Please," she begged. "We have to move her now." Jace looked down at the trap again. He wiped sweat from his forehead and took a deep breath. Using his multi-tool, he pried the last claw loose. The metal creaked, then snapped open with a sharp hiss. The woman gasped in pain as the trap released. Her leg, blood flowed freely, but she was free. Jace pulled off his jacket and tied it tight around her thigh. It wasn't perfect, but it would slow the bleeding. "Can you walk?" He asked her softly. She opened her mouth, coughed, then said, "I'll try." With Jace supporting her from one side and Laura clinging to her other arm, they began to move. The pit walls were steep, but with Jace pushing from behind, they managed. To climb out, the woman groaned in pain with each step. Case's suit detected her body heat dropping fast. She didn't have long. "We can't go back the same way," Case said suddenly. "It's not safe." The forest shifts. Jace looked around confused. "The forest shifts?" he asked. Laura nodded quickly. "It hides paths, changes trails, traps, travelers." Great, Jace thought. A living, thinking forest. Still, he had no choice but to follow Laura. She was from this world, and her instincts might save them. The three of them limped forward, deeper into the unknown. The forest changed the moment they entered a new path. The trees bent over them like arches. Blocking the sun, the light turned green and cold, and strange blue plants pulsed with light on either side. They passed a rusted sign half buried in dirt. It was covered in alien script, but Jace's scanner translated it instantly. "Warning, do not enter, forbidden zone." Jace froze. "This area is illegal to enter," he said. "I know," the alien mother whispered. "That's why the hunters don't come here." "What hunters?" Jace asked, but she didn't answer. She was too weak to speak more. The deeper they walked, the more unnatural things became. Bones hung from tree branches, twisted into strange symbols. The air grew thick with sweet, heavy scent like flowers. And rot. Something had made this place its home, and it did not welcome visitors. Suddenly, the ground trembled again. Far behind them, a second roar ripped through the trees. Laura screamed and covered her ears. The alien mother collapsed to the ground, too weak to go on. Jace pulled his blaster and looked around. "We can't outrun it," he muttered. He scanned the area quickly, searching for anything shelter. Cave, cover. Then he saw it, a narrow crevice between two giant rocks. Hidden behind a curtain of hanging vines, Jace helped the mother up again and dragged her toward it. They slipped inside just as another roar came, this time much closer. The space inside was tight and dark. Laura curled up next to her mother, who breathed shallowly, her body trembling. Jace stood at the entrance, peeking through the vines with his blaster. "Ready?" he finally whispered. "What is that thing?" The mother opened her eyes slightly, her voice thin. It was once a guardian. Long ago, twisted by war and hunger. Now it hunts anything warm. Jace didn't reply. He just listened. The trees outside were still again, too still. Then he saw it. A massive creature, taller than any human, walked slowly past the crevice. Its skin was thick like stone, but covered in black moss. Its arms were long, dragging claws across the ground. It sniffed the air, pausing, turning its glowing yellow eyes toward the rocks. Jace held his breath. Laura covered her mouth. The creature stepped closer, then suddenly it turned away. A loud rustling echoed as it moved deeper into the forest. Disappearing once again, Jace finally exhaled. "We need a plan," he said quietly. The mother barely nodded. "Keep her safe," she whispered. "She's all I have." Jace looked at Laura. The little girl had stopped crying. She just looked up at him with hope. For the first time, Jace realized something. He didn't come to this world to be a hero, but now he had no choice. The forest wanted them gone. The beast wanted them dead, but Jace had made a promise, and he wasn't leaving without both of them. Inside the tight crevice, time moved slowly. The forest outside made no sound, not even wind. Jace sat near the entrance, his blaster ready, his back pressed against cold stone. Laura slept curled against her mother, her small hands still trembling. In her sleep, the mother was fading fast, her breathing shallow, her skin pale under the green glow of the forest. Jace checked the med supplies in his belt. He had only one dose of stim gel left, enough to help her stay awake, but not enough to heal. He sighed, then applied it carefully to her neck. The woman winced, then opened her eyes. "Thank you, human," she whispered. Jace shook his head. "Don't thank me yet. We're not safe." She gave a tired smile, then said, "You don't have to stay. You can leave us." "I could," Jace said, "but I won't." The sound of something cracking outside made them freeze. It wasn't close, but not far either. Jace slowly pushed the vines aside and peeked out. The trees shook as something massive moved through them. And then he saw it again, the beast. It was sniffing the air, moving slow but with purpose. Its body was covered in rough, armor-like skin, its limbs long and clawed. Its face was the worst, no eyes. Just a wide mouth full of teeth and slits that pulsed with every breath. It didn't see, it smelled, it hunts by scent. Jace whispered to the alien woman. She nodded weakly, and sound. It's old tech fused with animal instinct. It never stops. Jace looked at Laura, still sleeping. Then an idea came to him. If it hunts by scent, maybe I can distract it. The alien mother's eyes widened. "No, it will kill you. Not if I move fast," Jace said. "I'll lead it away. You both stay hidden here." He stood, checking his Gear 1 plasma flare, one blaster, and a belt of noise grenades. He wasn't a soldier, but he had training as he turned to go. A small hand grabbed his. It was Laura, now awake, looking up with fear and trust in her wide violet eyes. "Please come back," she whispered. "I will," he said, "but I need to make it chase me. Far from here." He slipped out of the crevice and moved fast between the trees. The beast was ahead, sniffing, searching, slow and deadly. Jace tossed a noise grenade to the side. It exploded with a loud snap, echoing through the woods. The beast turned instantly, growling, then pounced in that direction. Jace didn't stop. He moved again, throwing another sound bomb farther to the west. This time, the monster roared and charged, crashing through trees like a tank. The plan was working. Jace ran deeper into the forest, marking his trail as he moved. He had to stay ahead, keep it focused on him. But then he tripped. He hit the ground hard, rolling into a patch of glowing fungus. The beast's head snapped toward him. Jace scrambled up and fired his blaster into the air. Blue light flashed, and the creature roared again. Coming straight for him, he ran, fast and wild, ducking branches, leaping roots, his breath sharp and short. He reached a cliffside, then stopped. Below was a river, fast and rocky. He didn't have a choice, as the beast burst from the trees. Jace activated his last plasma flare and tossed it behind him. The flare lit up the forest, the heat confusing the creature. Jace turned and jumped. The water hit him like a wall, cold and violent. He was dragged by the current, tumbling over rocks and under branches. For a moment, everything went black. When he opened his eyes, he was on the riverbank, coughing, soaked and bruised. His arm burned and his side ached, but he was alive. He looked back toward the forest. The beast didn't follow at least not yet. It was confused, maybe even lost. Jace knew he had only a little time. He had to get back to the mother and child before the monster found them again. He stood up slowly, using a branch as a crutch. Every step was painful, but he moved, step by step, back toward the forbidden zone. When he finally reached the hidden crevice, the sun was setting. Laura ran out first, her face lighting up. "You came back." she shouted. Her mother smiled weakly from the shadows. Jace dropped to his knees beside her. "We don't have much time," he said. "It's not dead." The alien mother nodded. "But you gave us a chance." That night, as darkness fell. Fully, Jace built a small fire. He kept watch with his blaster in hand. The forest was quiet again, but he didn't trust it. The beast was still out there, waiting, hunting, and it would come back. But now they had hope. And that was enough for now. The fire crackled softly in the dark. Jace sat close, holding his blaster. Scanning the forest shadows, the alien mother lay nearby, wrapped in thermal cloth. Her leg still wounded, but no longer bleeding. Laura rested her head on his knee, half asleep. Her tiny fingers curled tightly around his hand. But Jace didn't sleep. He couldn't. The beast was still out there, and the silence of the forest wasn't comfort, it was a warning. He looked up at the sky, hidden behind thick branches, only tiny stars peeking through. His body ached from the river. His clothes were damp, and he knew they couldn't stay here much longer. The mother stirred, opening her eyes slowly. "You should rest." "Human," she said, her voice weak. Jace shook his head. "I'll rest when we're safe." She gave a sad smile, then glanced at her daughter. She hasn't smiled like that in a long time. Jace looked down at Laura, her soft breathing steady. "She's strong," he said. "She didn't give up. She's all I have," the mother whispered, "and I almost lost her." Jace stood and checked the edges of the small clearing they had hidden in. He had gathered stones and built a ring around the fire, but stones wouldn't stop what was coming. He pulled out his last flare and one emergency signal spike. It was too weak to call for help off-world, but it could draw attention for better or worse. He set it near the fire and programmed it to send a pulse every 5 minutes. The wind shifted, suddenly. The air smelled wrong, like rotting meat and smoke. Jace froze. The beast was near again. He whispered, "Wake up." As he shook Laura gently, her eyes opened and she quickly shook her mother awake. The three of them sat quietly as the forest held its breath again. Then they heard it. A long, low growl, like thunder wrapped in pain. Branches cracked in the distance, then silence. Jace moved fast, pulling the flare and jamming it into the ground. He lit it white fire, bursting upward, casting shadows in every direction. Then it roared. The beast charged into the clearing, its claws scraping the trees, its mouth wide open, steaming in the cold air. Jace fired twice, blue bolts slamming into its chest, but the creature didn't stop. It slammed its body into the flare, knocking it over, and screamed in rage as flames licked its hide. "Run!" Jace shouted. He threw a smoke pod, clouding the area in thick, gray mist. The mother pulled Laura close and tried to crawl, but she was too slow. Jace ran to her and lifted her into his arms. Grunting as the pain in his side screamed back, the beast roared again, swiping through the smoke. Its claws caught the edge of Jace's jacket, slicing through it like paper. But Jace didn't stop. He ran through the smoke, carrying the mother with Laura running close behind. They reached a fallen log and crawled behind it. Jace dropped the mother down gently and turned, blaster ready. The beast crashed through the smoke, eyes wild, roaring. And sniffing, Jace tossed a sonic grenade toward it. The sound exploded in the air like 1,000 sharp screams. The beast howled and stumbled. Covering its ears or where ears should have been, Jace fired again and again, aiming at its legs. The creature staggered but didn't fall. Instead, it roared louder and slammed its fist into the ground, shaking the forest. Trees cracked and one nearby tree fell, slamming down with a crash. Sparks flew as it hit the edge of the campfire, spreading flames fast. Now the forest was burning. Laura screamed as the fire spread behind them. Jace looked around desperately. They couldn't stay, but they couldn't outrun both the fire and the beast. Then the alien mother pulled something from her belt, a small silver orb barely glowing. "Take this," she whispered, pressing it into Jace's hand. "What is it?" he asked. "A beacon. Ancient tech. Call it, and they will come." "They?" he asked, but there was no time for answers. Jace pressed the orb center, and a soft hum filled the air. It lit up, pulsing slowly. The beast turned, sensing the energy. It let out a guttural roar and lunged again. Jace shouted, "Get behind me." The beast was nearly on them. Then the orb fired a flash of bright blue light into the sky. For a moment, everything stopped. A loud screech echoed from above. Something big was coming something from the sky. The beast paused, its claws mid-air. It sniffed the air again, and then for the first time it stepped back. Growling low, Jace stared upward, shielding his eyes from the glow. A shape descended from the clouds. "Glowing like fire," Laura whispered. "It heard us." The sky cracked open with light. A strange humming sound echoed across the forest as the glowing shape in the clouds came closer. The beast snarled, confused, its claws twitching. It turned its head from the humans to the sky and back again. Unsure which threat to face, Jace stood in front of the alien mother and Laura. Holding his blaster tightly, his arms shook from exhaustion, and his side burned from where the creature had grazed him. He didn't know what was falling from the sky, but he knew he had to protect them until it arrived. "Stay behind me," Jace whispered, eyes never leaving the beast. The orb the mother had given him now floated slightly in the air, spinning slowly, its blue light pulsing faster. The beast stepped forward again, drawn by the heat of their bodies. The smell of fear. "Come on." Jace muttered under his breath. "Come at me, not them." The creature crouched low, its mouth opening wide, teeth shining in the flickering firelight. It roared and lunged faster than before, its claws swinging toward them with deadly force. Jace didn't move away. He stepped forward, straight into its path, raising his arms wide, making himself the only target. The impact knocked him off his feet, the claws ripping into his shoulder. He fell back hard, hitting the ground with a thud. Blood soaked through his suit, but he stayed conscious. The beast lifted a claw to finish him. Laura screamed, running toward him. "No." Before the claw fell, a beam of green light shot down from the sky. It struck the creature in the back, burning into its skin. The beast roared in pain and leaped back, turning toward the light. Above them, a ship floated silently, shaped like a blade of silver with glowing patterns across its hull. It hovered just above the treetops. Doors opening beneath it, more beams of light shot down, surrounding the beast in a circle. Jace looked up with blurry eyes. "What is that?" he groaned. The alien mother pulled herself beside him, her face pale but steady. "It's the old ones. The guardians," they answered the beacon. The creature thrashed and howled, trying to escape, but the circle of light closed in. Pressing it to the ground, it screamed one last time, then vanished in a flash of blinding blue. Gone, the forest fell quiet again. The wind returned, the fire cooled, and only smoke lingered. Laura ran to Jace and dropped to her knees beside him. "You said you'd come back," she sobbed. "You did." "But you're hurt," Jace coughed, trying to smile. "I made a promise," he said weakly. "Didn't say I'd come back in one piece." From the hovering ship, a beam of soft golden light scanned the clearing. A voice echoed from above, deep and calm. "Injured human. Brave action." Rescue confirmed. Jace's vision blurred again. He could barely feel his body, but he heard the mother whisper, "He saved us. Please save him." Another beam of light surrounded Jace's body, lifting him gently from the ground. It wrapped Around his wounds, slowing the bleeding, Laura held his hand even as he floated, refusing to let go. "You're not alone now," she whispered. "You're one of us." The ship began to descend lower, landing quietly on the moss-covered forest floor. Doors opened, and beings stepped out tall, robed, glowing softly from within. They looked at Jace, then at the alien woman and her daughter. Without a word, they offered their hands. They were the ones the ancient beacon called the Guardians, long forgotten by most of the galaxy. But not by her people. Jace was placed inside a glowing pod on the ship, his wounds wrapped in energy bands. Laura sat beside him, holding his hand, her eyes never leaving his face. Her mother lay beside them, finally safe. The ship lifted into the sky again, carrying them far away from the deadly forest. The danger had passed. But something had changed. Jace, a simple human explorer, had done what no one else would. He risked everything to protect a child and her mother. He had faced an ancient beast and refused to run. The Guardians saw this, and they would not forget. Somewhere deep inside the ship, as healing systems worked on his body, Jace whispered softly, "She's safe now." That's all that matters, and for the first time in days. He closed his eyes and slept. Jace opened his eyes slowly. Warm light washed over him, soft and golden. He wasn't in the forest anymore. No burning trees, no roars, no blood, just peace. He lay inside a smooth white chamber that hummed quietly. Soft vines grew along the walls, pulsing gently with light. The air smelled clean. Like fresh rain and flowers, his wounds were gone, replaced by faint lines of glowing blue across his skin. "Where M1?" he whispered. A voice answered, deep and kind. "You are in the sanctuary." Jace sat up slowly, surprised that his body no longer ached. Standing near him was one of the glowing beings from the forest. Their body was tall and wrapped in silk-like robes, face hidden beneath a smooth golden mask. "We healed you," the being said. "You fought to protect, not to destroy." Jace rubbed his forehead, trying to remember everything. The beast, Laura, and her mother. "Are they okay?" The Guardian nodded. "They are safe and nearby." The door opened with a soft sound. Laura ran in first, her eyes lighting up. "Jace." She shouted and jumped onto the bed beside him, hugging his waist tightly. "You're awake." I was so scared. Her mother followed slowly behind, her leg wrapped in healing bands. Her movements still weak, but her eyes were strong again. She smiled. "You made it. Human." Jace smiled back, resting a hand on Laura's head. "I told you I would." The Guardian stepped forward, holding a small glass orb in its hand. "This belongs to you now." Jace took it carefully, the same ancient beacon he had used in the forest. "But I thought this was yours." "It responds only to those who act with courage and love." The Guardian said, "Now it belongs to you." Jace looked at the orb, then at Laura and her mother. "I didn't do anything special," he said softly. "You did what many would not." The alien mother replied, "You stayed." The days passed inside the sanctuary. Jace learned that it was a place hidden between worlds, created long ago by an ancient race to protect the broken and lost. Very few were allowed inside, only those chosen by the beacon. He was the first human ever brought there. Laura showed him the garden's floating bridges, singing stones, and trees that grew upside down. She laughed again, louder every day. Her mother slowly healed, and the guards treated her like a guest, not a prisoner. Jace found peace in the quiet. But he also knew peace never lasted long. One day, while standing on a balcony overlooking the glowing lakes, the alien mother joined him. "They're talking about you," she said quietly. "The Guardians?" He asked. "No, the galaxy." Jace turned to her, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Your rescue was seen by others. she said. Not just my people, but humans too. He stared into the distance. I broke rules, he said. Entered. Forbidden land interfered in alien territory. You've saved a life, she answered. That matters more than rules. Suddenly, a deep tone echoed through the air. One of the guardians appeared, floating toward them. Jace of Earth, it said, you are summoned. He followed the being into a large chamber filled with light and mist. Their other guardians waited in a circle, their masks glowing gently. You have shown mercy, bravery, and sacrifice. One of them spoke. We offer you a choice, said another. You may return to your world, or remain here as a protector. Jace didn't answer right away. He thought about Earth, his quiet job, the city lights, the loneliness. Then he thought about Laura's tiny hand holding his. He remembered her cry in the forest, her mother's strength, and the beast that nearly ended it all. He looked at the guardians. I'll stay, he said. If I can help others like them, then this is where I belong. The room filled with warm light. Laura ran in and hugged him again, laughing. You're not leaving. Not anymore. He smiled. You're stuck with me. That night, the stars above the sanctuary shimmered brighter. Jace stood beside Laura and her mother, watching the sky. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a protector. The sanctuary had become Jace's new home. Its glowing skies, floating gardens, and peaceful lakes felt like a dream. But dreams don't last forever. Even in paradise, news travels fast. One morning, Jace was called to the central hall. A small, silver disc hovered in the center, flickering with blue light. It played a message from the Earth Federation. He stepped forward as the voice echoed through the chamber. Explorer Jace Walker, the message said, you are hereby summoned for investigation. You entered a restricted alien zone without clearance. You engaged with non-registered species and used unknown technology. You must report immediately to Earth Command. Laura stood beside him, her little hand gripping his tightly. Her mother's face was calm, but her eyes burned with quiet anger. They want to punish you, she asked, for saving us. Jace didn't answer right away. He stared at the message until it faded. Then he turned to the guardians. I have to go, he said. They won't stop until I face them myself. Laura looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear. Will they take you away forever? She asked. Jace knelt in front of her and smiled gently. I don't know, he whispered, but I won't let them forget what we did together. That night, the guardians prepared a transport ship for him, Laura, and her mother helped him pack, though he didn't own much. Just his repaired gear, the ancient orb beacon, and a soft scarf Laura had made from glowing threads. At dawn, Jace stood at the edge of the landing platform. The ship hovered silently behind him, waiting. Laura ran into his arms, hugging him tight. You'll come back, right? I'll try, he said softly. But no matter what happens, I'll always carry you with me. Her mother stepped forward, placing something in Jace's hand, a small pendant, shaped like a star wrapped in a leaf. It's from our people, she said, to honor the one who gave everything when others looked away. Jace held back his emotion and stepped onto the ship. The doors closed behind him, and the ship lifted into the clouds. The sanctuary faded from view, but not from his heart. When he arrived on Earth, everything felt colder. The metal walls of the command station, the gray halls, the quiet stairs. They put him in a small room with bright lights and cameras. A group of officers sat behind a desk, watching him closely. Why did you enter the Forbidden Zone? One of them asked. There was a child asking for help, Jace replied. You used alien tech not registered to the Federation. Another said, it was the only way to save them, Jace answered. They threw questions at him for hours. Why didn't he return immediately? Why didn't he contact Earth first? Why did he trust aliens? And each time, Jace gave them the same answer. because it was the right thing to do. Finally, an old officer leaned forward. You disobeyed orders, broke protocol, and risked diplomatic crisis. Jace met his eyes without fear. I saved a life, he said. If that's a crime, I'll take the punishment. Silence filled the room. Then the old officer leaned back. No punishment, he said, but no reward. Either you are free to go, but we will not recognize your actions. Jace stood and gave a small nod. He didn't need medals. He didn't need fame. He walked out of the room quietly, his thoughts already drifting back to the forest, to Laura's smile, to the warmth of her tiny hand in his. Back at the sanctuary, time moved on. Laura asked about him every day. Her mother told stories of the human who stood between them and death. Then one evening, a beam of blue light appeared on the garden floor. The orb beacon floated from the trees, spinning fast and out of the light. A figure stepped forward. It was Jace. Laura screamed with joy and ran into his arms. You came back. I said I'd try, he laughed, holding her tight. The guardians watched from a distance, their masks glowing softly. They said nothing. They didn't need to, because one act of kindness had changed more than one life. It had opened a path between two worlds, and now the protector had returned home, not because he had to, but because he belonged forever.